So we're back from the Tennessee trip, and it's time to do all the first starts over the next few days. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull out or start the John Deere tractor, the 52 John Deere. We actually need to do that for a couple of reasons. One, I got to get the boat out, and the other thing is I use that John Deere for a lot of things around the farm. So first start. Let's get that John Deere out of the garage. So I have to put the battery in the John Deere. It is a miserable job. John Deere did not plan this one very well. So I thought while I was doing it, I would tell you a little bit of a story about the tractor and its place in my collection. So if you've been following the channel, you know that we headed to Tennessee for a couple weeks, and I filmed some of it. It was a fun time. I'm going to put some of it up on the channel, some of the stories up on the channel. One of the ones that was really enjoyable was driving Tail of the Dragon, and I want to share that with you in some kind of a way that tells a little bit of a story about driving it. We did a couple other things that were really fun. I actually did several things. We went to several car museums, an air museum. So I hope to share that over the next little bit. But anyway, let's get this battery in here. This is a positive ground. So if you're familiar or not familiar, that simply means that you're using the positive terminal on the battery into ground, which is not such a big deal, but there absolutely is no room to work in here. And the problem, one of the problems, because there's no room, is we have to get this hole down in, and I'm working in a space that's the thickness of my hand. And John Deere, I don't know, I guess the idea was that you only do this when the battery goes bad if you're using this on the farm, but I do this twice a year because while it's in storage, it never gets run. So I don't like to leave the battery in the tractor because it gets very cold here in New England. It gets 0 to sometimes below 0, and I don't like leaving these batteries out in the cold when they don't ever get charged up. So I do try to pull the batteries. I do put them in a warm garage, and that is my story. So when we moved onto the property, when we bought the property up here on the mountain, my intention very early on was to raise horses. So I needed a place that was not only large enough for that, but also had a lot of back roads, woods roads that could be ridden without getting into trouble or having to contend with traffic. So this property, literally, it's miles in any direction, or most directions. So you can we could get out and do a lot of riding. But we found out later on, not too much later on, but we went to a horse show, my wife and I, after we got married, and neither she nor I knew that she was deadly allergic to horses, horse dander. And at one of those shows, we had to take her out of the show field pretty quickly because she was starting to have a hard time breathing. We took her to the doctors, did some tests, and found out that she was allergic to horses. Anyway, she's sort of gotten past that after all these years. It's been 40 years, so she's sort of grown past that. But anyway, so that kind of ended the whole idea of having a horse farm, which is probably not a bad idea that happened. But I hadn't completely given up on the idea of having a farm. So we kind of cleared some pasture. It was mostly all in the woods at the time. So we cleared some pasture. You can go back, there's a couple videos in the early part of the channel where I'm mowing the field. But so we literally cut the pastures out of the woods, and threw some fencing up and put some cows on it. And for 20 years we raised cows. But what kind of farm is it if you don't have a tractor? And I bought this thing, found it. I don't know how I found it, because back then there was no Facebook Marketplace. There was no online in the very early 80s. So I don't know if it was one of those cars for sale rags that you used to be able to buy at the local convenience store. But I found this thing, and it had the John Deere. It had a mowing machine and a plow. So I bought that, and I've been doing a little bit of I've been just a regular upkeep, and I've been doing a rolling restoration on this thing ever since. And this is my baby, I mean, I bought this thing and I used it hard, I pushed it hard, but now it's my baby, and I'm just my wife's asked me a couple times if I want to get rid of it, or should we get rid of it. I'm like, oh, I can't, this is my baby. And we've had some adventures. Used to mow hay, sickle bar mower. If you've never mowed with a sickle bar mower, which was all the technology at one time, they can have their issues. And we learned pretty quickly those issues and had to deal with those. But anyway, this is 1952 John Deere. It was 30 years old when I bought it. And a 30-year-old tractor is not particularly old tractor, but I've had it for 40 years, so it's 70 years old, or 72 years old, 73 years old. So I've had it longer than anybody, and they just keep chugging. They just keep chugging. They just work. Kind of good old school machines. And unlike some of the new tractors with all of their electronics, this has a point and a condenser and a coil, and it either runs or it doesn't run. And you can maintain it yourself. I don't know if any of you are following some of the garbage that's going on with John Deere and their customers John Deere doesn't want their customers working on their own equipment, which I think is terrible. So they've created things that are so difficult to work on that you literally have to hire John Deere to work on them. I guess there's been some lawsuits having to do with that. Like I said, this is a pain. This is a pain. So this is a little MT. M is the size of the tractor. They make two versions, or made two versions of this. The MT, which is trike, and the regular M was the wide front end. And of course, like all of these tractors, you have to be aware. You can't just drive these things like you do your car. They can be very dangerous. So you have to be aware of everything that you're doing. You have to be aware of where you are in the field, or even in the woods. I used to bring this in the woods too when I was cutting down all the trees for the pasture. Trailer that I used to haul behind it, and we'd go in the woods and we'd cut up or buck up firewood and bring it out. And sometimes you get stuck on the stones or the stumps, and there's always sometimes the feeling that you were going to flip the thing over. But it's a 25 horse. I think it's 25 horse, if I remember right. 2-cylinder. Call it the Poppin' Johnny. How much that'll stall this thing out, which is actually what makes it kind of scary, because you can get into situations with it. You know, these big rear tires that you can bring the front end right up off the ground. A lot of people have gotten hurt on these old tractors, not just John Deere, but any brand. They get in a situation where that front end comes up and they can flip over. Leave a comment if you have any experience with these old tractors. All right, so I turned the camera off a bit because it takes forever to get that battery hold down installed. And I've also got the ground strap in place, and now I have to get the power side hooked up. So not only did we buy the mowing machine, or had the sickle bar mower with it, we also bought a really old hay baler. It was a monster. It was huge, but it worked flawless. I mean, it's like some of this old equipment, I don't know that you can kill it as long as you do some kind of regular maintenance to it. But I think it was a harvester. I think it was a harvester baler. And I didn't own a rake. I borrowed that. Or sometimes what I would do is another friend of mine, he had a small farm he was running, and we would help each other out, exchanging equipment, or just helping each other in the field. And so I think we used Jimmy's rake. I think that's how that happened. And of course, if you have cows, you have cow manure. So I had this small little, I believe it was an international. I believe it is an international. I still have that. I did a couple of videos on that manure spreader and asked you guys if I should restore it on the channel. After years and years and years, 40 years sitting outside, it would require some love to get that thing up so that it was usable. But anyway, we had the manure spreader, and we pulled that with John as well. So John was pretty useful around here. Like I said, there's absolutely no room to work in here at all. No room to work in here at all. Tell you what, you short across these terminals or up against the frame of the tractor, it does spark. It does get interesting. So we try not to do that. I guess I'm as tight as I'm going to get that. All right, tight enough. And let's see if the light comes on. The light. All right. Do a really quick oil check. Plenty of oil. Maybe a little too much, but I don't worry about that just yet. All right. Okay, let's turn the fuel on. Has an updraft carburetor, so I don't like to leave the fuel on. So there's that. Let's put some gas in it and see how she works. So it is the next day. I didn't have any gas. I used it all up in the snowblower this winter, snowblowing, lots of snow. So I had to go into town and get some gas. So it is the next day. It is raining out. It is miserable. It is cold. But we still need to get this thing started and get it pulled out. So let's do the thing. Let's see if we'll start up. Normally, John is a happy starter. I generally don't have any issues getting it started. The only exception sometime is in the early spring when I first start it. It takes a little bit of time to get the gas sucked up through the carburetor, but let's give it a try. It does like choke. Let's see what she does. Like I said, John is a happy starter. that's the first startup of the spring season. Got a bunch more to do. We'll bring you back on the John Deere later on in the summer as we begin to do a little bit more work on it. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, and I hope you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are anxious to grow this channel and grow this community as big as it is possible. Guys, I love you. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next video.